V3 sees the release of data marketplaces, and you've called this the most important release of Ocean Protocol to date. Why is that?
It's for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is the first time that regular kind of crypto natives can interact with the protocol in a natural way that they're used to. So reusing the wallets, the AMMs, and interfacing through the Ocean market. In the back, under the hood, the architecture is massively simplified. We leverage the composability, the building blocks that have come from the DeFi and Ethereum world, and that simplifies the interaction a lot and makes it more reliable. It's decentralized and unstoppable. So there's a whole bunch of different little features that are coming with this, where it's actually addictive. People are going onto the Ocean market right now, playing with data sets, staking on it, as well as downloading it and using it. So we're 48 hours in, and we already have some pretty good indicators that we may have hit the target that we were intending to.
Do you already collect feedback from people using it?
Yes.
And find out insights that you weren't aware of?
Absolutely. I mean, in our initial in our kind of launch blog post, we said we are erring on the side of launching early to the community so that we can get that feedback. And we have gotten a lot of feedback. We have a very active Discord channel of feature requests already, and comments, bugs, fixes, these types of things. And the engineering team is working to fix those immediately. And that type of feedback is you only get when the users are running it in production. People are learning about how you are able to use automated market makers like Balancer and Uniswap to price data, impermanent loss. All of these different concepts are now being applied to data. And this is the very first time that we're aware of that any project in this space has done that.
So businesses will be able to share and sell data now on Ocean marketplaces, but also create their own marketplace running on the protocol, the service. Because it's. But do these private marketplaces also require the Ocean token for transactions and providing liquidity?
So out of the box, the Ocean market is open source code. So the reason why we did that was because we needed people to kind of be able to grab, touch, and feel the technology through the Ocean market. But the Ocean market is open source information. So that's our open source code. So anybody can take that code and rejigger it. We have hard coded a certain amount of functionality, like the fees as well as the Ocean, but somebody can easily update the code and then make it their own. So we follow this ethos in the space that the code is open. We go in a certain direction to make it easier for everybody to participate. But if some people have a different vision of how to use the Ocean software or the Ocean market, they're free to.
Okay. Who's your main target group? Would you say businesses mostly or more developers?
I think we need an ecosystem. So the enterprise users, you have the general users, you have the crypto developers, and then you have the crypto natives. This is the way we generally see the landscape if you kind of go in four directions. And we need all of them to participate and add value. You can't have just one being an outside voice or an outsized voice in the specific thing. So with V3, we are going for users, people who want to understand and stake on data. They want to use data as kind of a monetized asset. What they need, of course, is the publisher of the data, which could be from the enterprise side or a small startup. And so we have kind of a range of those that are starting to publish data. We have a set of, I guess, Amazon data. Somebody put their genome information on. Other people have put on certification courses, artwork. There's a whole bunch of stuff where it's already expanded outside of the bounds of data, but people are using that so they can get liquid price signals on the asset, the digital asset that they're doing. So long answer short, we know that this technology is general purpose. It can be used for any type of digital asset. We've geared it towards data, but the community can also help us in filling the Ocean with the types of data that they think is relevant at this stage. I think realistically, we're going to have crypto natives, people who are understanding the space, putting in data first, and it can still be very valuable. We have an agricultural monitoring service. We have a logistics company. We have retail data that's already coming in. So the community is going to help us figure this out, but we can't leave the enterprises behind. They have a lot of valuable data, and we hope that through this release, we can onboard them more easily and just give them a taste of what's possible, because they have so much data that the world can use.
Regarding the onboarding of enterprises, if you look at crypto as a whole, especially the onboarding of fiat is still a challenge especially maybe for companies, because there's lots of regulation and legal aspects involved. How does that translate to the data marketplaces? So what does the money flow look like from companies on both the selling and the buying side of data?
So I think you're absolutely right that enterprises are still getting a handle on this with compliance, with audit, controlling, etc. And so there's a lot of questions that they have. The advantage of data is in twofold. Number one is that it is a greenfield. People aren't monetizing their data. If you look at the Daimlers of the world or logistics company, health companies, they're not really monetizing their data. They might be trading or bartering in some form. They might have some deals, but they take years to strike. And Ocean allows them to get on to the data sharing world in a much, much lighter fashion, because the smart contracts enforce kind of the contract. And I believe that is a backdoor to propel the enterprises forward in understanding both tokens and the data economy. By getting them to share their data, you're de facto forcing them to understand the token economy, because if the IT center can turn from a cost center into a profit center, all of a sudden you have the CFO saying, hey, controlling, audit, tax, figure this stuff out, because we can make a lot of money off of this. And so they're going to need to get a grasp on tokens. And I think that will also help, in a broader sense, legitimize the crypto space in a way that wasn't possible before.
Reach out to the right kind of people within bigger organizations, because where does this sit within a department?
So we've had a lot of experience with this all the way back in 2015. So we've been working with a lot of corporates. So we understand the profile. We believe we do anyways. The number one, we look for three criteria when we work with an enterprise. Number one is they have a good use case that we can understand and we can believe in. Number two is they have a dedicated team. If they don't have a dedicated team and it's just kind of this side project, it's not going to work. And then number three is they have resources, cash. They have some budget that allows them to go this way. If they have all three of those, generally you have enough of either leadership support, or you have somebody within there who is kind of this on the fringe, wild, crazy, living at the edge technologist who's willing to put their reputation on the line to make this happen. That's the secret sauce. Money, a dedicated team, and reasonable use case, and we've seen enough of them to kind of know if they work. Once you have that, then the next question is to onboard them and to work with them. And here, they come to us. We don't go to them because we don't know which enterprises have those three ingredients. And so a lot of our business development is just managing the inflow, and we actually can't handle all the inflow that's coming in. And so we have to pick and choose, which is a very good position to be in, because then we can actually just work on the projects that make sense from our side and the corporate side. And so as we move along, we're having a much higher success rate in the people we engage with, because we have this kind of formula of just letting it through. And now we're with the release of V3, we have much more engagement, we have much more interest in the funnel. How we manage that is a further challenge, where we might engage the IBMs of the world, the Accentures of the world, and say, hey, we think this is a great use case. Here's Ocean V3. We can help with architectural support and guidance, but why don't you guys take this, because you guys are much better shaped to help take these people through an entire 2 or 3 year journey. And I think that's how we scale this, because we like to focus on the tech, and we're a small team. So I think that it behooves us to increase the ecosystem, bringing on the enterprise kind of integrators and letting them work with the enterprise, but being around to answer questions.
So you started work in blockchain around 2014 with BigchainDB. Was it there that the idea of Ocean was conceived, or was it already a vision that you had from the start, like being able to exchange data?
It all came from just at the core. It was this idea that if you could control your intellectual property and data, you will have a chance as a human to have agency in a world where you have AI, automation, robotics. They're all going to do the jobs that you can replicate, that you can copy, that you can have behind a process. And the thing that's remaining for humans is our creativity. We think more creative than machines right now. We're able to, our brain is fundamentally a quantum computing machine, and nobody has solved that problem yet. So that is our unique USP against the machines. And so Ascribe was the first company. In 2013 we started, we incorporated in 2014, and that was give people back control of their intellectual property. And so that common thread has taken us to BigchainDB, where we try to have decentralized databases and distributed stores. And then through the experience of Ascribe and BigchainDB, we understood that Ocean was the logical conclusion, because you needed something that people could work with. A database is the developers understand, but Ocean is something that everybody can work with. It's your data, it's a marketplace, it's a protocol. You can start betting on your data, you can start sharing it in safe and private ways. So it's the culmination of this concept of let's give people back control of their intellectual property, but also by using blockchain technology for metadata store, access control, etc., you're able to give a provenance trail, an attribution, a full, complete record of everything, which AI loves. AI loves that. Big data loves that, because if anything goes wrong, you can say, okay, which was the data that was incorrect that I can strip out and then rerun everything. And so that was the confluence of everything. Ocean protocol is fundamentally giving back people control of their data and intellectual property, and also unlocking the data that is in these big platforms.
But could you have started Ocean or out of BigChain without raising ICO funds?
I don't think so. I think that if we're going to be an open source project, we need to be open to the community. The last thing that I wanted was to be beholden to investors that have perhaps a different alignment to the users. I want it all to be the same. So we have the users who are going to share their data, the users who are going to take back control of their data, and we have an open way for all the users to take kind of an ownership stake in the protocol itself. And to date, an ICO is the best vehicle for that.
And you co-founded both companies with Trent. Can you tell us a bit about your history together? So how did you meet, and how would you describe your working relationship?
We've known each other since, I believe, 1993. I was his mentor when he came into university at the University of Saskatchewan. And he was one of those groups of engineers, and I was helping out. And we had a very good conversation then. Through his time at the University of Saskatchewan, he was a prodigy. He already set up his first company in his second year of engineering, which in Saskatchewan and that geographic location, it's not exactly startup central. And for Trent to go against the grain at that early age was a very good sign. And so I admired his work from afar. I left, I went off into consulting, and 20 years later, he called me up and said, I moved to Berlin with my wife. We have an idea. Let's talk about it. And then we talked over the course of 5 or 6 months, and I got convinced about it. I sold my other company that was building banks around the world, and I jumped on full time with Trent and Masha to do this. And so we've been now working for 7 years together as a team, and it's great. I mean, Trent is a true visionary. He works really hard, and I believe that our values are very much aligned in what we want to accomplish and the direction we want to take the protocol.
Well, did you guys ever have like really fundamental different views on things?
Yeah, I mean, in the early stages, you have the storming, norming, and performing kind of thing, right? And that storming phase, we had a lot of conflict in the sense of we would argue points the best part about this is that even if we would, if you're looking from the outside, it looks like a really bad kind of marriage in a sense. But it was us flushing out ideas and being emotional and taking stands. The best part was we never took it personally. I've never taken anything that Trent has done personally, and he has never taken something I've done personally. We fight on the ideas, and we also go on facts. And I like that. At a certain point, it goes to emotion in the sense of a sense based on our personal experiences. But we've always found a path through, and I really admire and appreciate that type of relationship.
You are very passionate about giving citizens control of their data and maybe even being, but the debate about personal privacy has been going on for 15 years. It's getting stronger now in recent years with the growing powers of big tech, but still, most people don't really seem to care about privacy issues. So how do you want to fight this battle, create more awareness of this? Or, what's your view on this?
I think we need to be very pragmatic and realistic. There's so much going on in the world. There's so much complexity. People have trouble even understanding what's happening in the political realm, the economic, social, technology realm. There's just so much going on. So number one, let's be realistic about what we can expect from people. And as we go from early adopters to mass to late adopters, what happens? Ocean is a vehicle to get people to care. Why? Because we help put a value on data. And if everybody hears that you can make money from your data in some form and you can keep control, you're going to have multiple flavors. Some people will just say, take my data, I don't care, privacy doesn't matter. Other people will say, you're going to have to pay me more if you're going to use my data, and the condition is you have to keep it private. We need to give those types of tools for people so they can, when they're ready to share, they can share it. The trigger is a price signal. Why would you open up, for instance, your house to a complete stranger? Airbnb proved it was possible because you had various tools like ratings on the users. You had guarantees of payment. You had pictures of the unit. So you had the buyer and the seller having a certain base level of trust that somebody would open their private home to a complete stranger, and the complete stranger willing to go into a private home of somebody else. This is what we need to do for data. The binding point is somebody wants a better experience in a hotel. Somebody wants to pay less than they would at a hotel. The other person is, I have a spare room, my kid moved out, why don't I make some money off of that? Humans are predictable. And so giving a price signal on data, whatever it is, whether it's low or high or what have you, is enough to give people that incentive to start doing something. For instance, if you have like a luxury apartment that's a penthouse, what are you willing to rent it for? Some people are willing to rent it for whatever, $2,000 a night. Some people aren't willing to rent it for anything. Doesn't matter. The point is you have a price signal that helps people to make that decision. We don't have that for data, and Ocean's going to give it to us. Yeah.
But on the other hand, what's the incentive for big tech giving up this powerful position that they have with collecting and harvesting the data that they now own?
So that data is worth a lot. And if it's clear to that big tech that they can make more by sharing that data than holding on to it, it's they're already going to have a counter incentive now. They finally have, we have the basis with Ocean V3, a counter incentive for them to just hoard the data. They can actually repackage it and sell different parts. Part of their business could be selling data. And so that, once again, it's a signal to corporations and individuals alike that you can make more money. It's a brand new revenue stream. You have a cost center turning into a profit center. On the other hand, by putting a price on data, you also have this awareness from people saying, wait, you're selling this data. This is my data. I know the price. I know the value. Why aren't you giving me control? And you then have government and regulation to help move that along. And in Europe, it's particularly strong. It leads the world. And that can be a trigger where people say, wait, I own my data. You've been selling it. I know the price now. You know the price now. Let's make a fair deal, right? I think that is something that has to emerge. And it's not just the EU now, it's California. And several other jurisdictions are moving in that direction. I believe Singapore is also moving in this direction. So we're ahead of the curve. We now are going to have the infrastructure. We're going to have the regulation. The personal awareness, that just comes. It's going to take decades for that to happen, but you're going to see a gradual rebalance of control from the company to the individual in a certain manner. So an individual might decide to give up all control, but and a very low price, but at least it's going to be a conscious decision. Whereas there's some individuals who won't give up any of their data at any price if they can help it.
Yeah, well, it ties in with the podcast I was listening to recently from Scott Galloway, like Prof G, with Sinead Parral. I don't know if you heard this one, where they were talking about data and identity portability, so that you could move your data around from one social network to the other, and that falls in line with what Ocean is doing, I assume.
Absolutely.
And providing the tools to make data portability feasible.
Not even data portability. The fact that you actually own your data, like you don't need to port it anywhere. What you do is you allow different services to access it through a different APIs or microservices structure, and you always own your data. There's no porting it because it's yours. Your identity, your reputation, your health data, whatever it is, it's yours. It's somewhere on your computer in a cloud, but you control that cloud. You have the private keys to whatever. Using Filecoin, Arweave, these types of services. And then you use the Ocean access control and market to define the terms and conditions for somebody to access it. How much money, under what conditions, for what uses, all that sort of stuff. This is what we envision Ocean taking us to, and then different variations of Ocean.
What's the potential dark side of Ocean Protocol if indeed the sharing of data becomes ubiquitous? I think, yeah, the unexpected consequences of the sharing of data for the greater good might do. Could there be a negative aspect?
Absolutely. Like there's very dystopian views that you could take, where you have people who are getting farmed for their data. So a little bit different than now, but you actually have people who are existing purely to generate data. Is it worse than people sitting in fields gathering crops? Migrant workers? It's a moral question that we're not there yet, but I don't doubt that could happen. There's other things where if we know the value of data, you could have 20 Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazons now in the world controlling and acting as gatekeepers. That's definitely possible. In history of technology, there is this oscillation between centralized and then decentralized. Centralized and decentralized. With the internet, it was completely decentralized. It broke up the powers that be, like the IBMs and the larger Sun Microsystems, like all these big computing companies. It disintegrated or whatever their market share, and then we went to the internet. It was this wild west of innovation. And 30 years later, we have Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft. Decentralization technology is going to create a new set. It'll take about 2 decades where there's a flowering. We can set the foundations of it. Hopefully we design it better. But then it starts centralizing again. And this is happening with every wave of technology. The best thing that we can do, and that's why we believe so firmly in Ocean, is that we give people more control over their data. If they choose to give it up, it's their choice. You can use social engineering, you can use psychology and stuff to get them to give it up. We can't control that, but what we can do is make it from the ground principle is that you control your data, and then if you haven't unfortunately gotten a certain level of education that you shouldn't give it up, or for whatever reason, or for economic reasons you need to sell it. Yeah, I mean, at least you have that choice.
Tying into that, so there's also a strong debate currently about universal basic income, and 2 questions about this. Are you a proponent of this idea, this concept, and do you see people selling their data as a way to achieve universal basic income?
I do think that society tends more towards. I think that governments will be asked by their citizenry to guarantee a basic income as we get further down the path of AI, robotics, and automation. I think that's the European system moderates the kind of rapid and violent kind of changes that happen with technology, for lack of a better word. It's not violent, but it's quite, the oscillations are quite high because of technology. And I think that government acts as a bulwark against those waves of innovation coming against people. And so it's helpful, and I think the citizenry appreciates that. Of course, that comes with higher taxes. Do I want government organizing universal basic income? Hard to say. I think that it's a difficult policy question, and it depends on the quality of your government workers and the policymakers to execute, so that there's as least waste as possible, and that the most benefit to the most people happens. Mm-hmm. I think that we've always seen ocean and giving people back their intellectual property as a way for universal basic income. It's a way that 7.5 billion people can participate and have agency in a data economy in some form. And if it supplements a government-run universal basic income, or it stands alone, I think it's a good thing. I don't think that having a variety of income streams or potential income streams, whether it's government or data or identity or reputation, is a bad thing. And the more streams of income, the more streams of control that you can have, the better off people can be, and have a chance to have kind of a fair playing field for everybody to then have agency in a data economy.
Is it also a subject that comes up in your talk within the Gaia-X platform?
I think Gaia-X is the European kind of initiative where we do try to think about these things. We try to have a level playing field for the citizenry of the European Union. With Gaia-X, you have three main players. You have the government, policymakers, and NGOs. You have large enterprises, and you have some startups like us. The risk, of course, is capture from larger enterprise. We don't, the colleagues that we work with on Gaia-X, they go in with the best of intentions, but there's always the risk of capture because a large enterprise has a large voice, a lot of weight behind them, and we as kind of the organization at Gaia-X would probably need to make sure that all the voices are heard.
So Ocean is a blockchain project with its own crypto token. So this automatically means in a way you are developing Ocean under huge scrutiny because the people in crypto are very fanatic about the projects they support. What's that like?
I think that no matter what you do, you need, unless you're fully funding your idea with your own funds, there is some sort of accountability. And with crypto, that comes hand in hand. You have a very diverse set of voices who are asking for different things. I'm pleased that we've been able to manage it. Somebody once, I think it was somebody from USV, I think it was either Fred Wilson or somebody like that, who said that running a token project is like setting up a startup where you're trying to find product market fit, while setting up a startup and a public company at the same time. So you have the community aspect and the investor aspect. You have a startup aspect, and both of these are extremely difficult to manage on both sides. And so if you can get the community to contribute and play a role and define ways that the community can be active, then that's the best thing you can do because it relieves a lot of stress on the team to move the technology forward. So we provide the vision, we can provide a set of values that we believe are important, that we talked about in this interview, and then we can move the ball forward in various ways of the technology, the ecosystem, and the business development. And then as the community matures, we hand over more and more power and control to them, and then we let the project go into the community. Doesn't mean we step back, but it just means that there's just so many more voices who are active that the project does go in directions that we don't have visibility on.
Well, so a recent happening was that the community discovered that Deutsche Bundesbank will be using Ocean. Were you surprised by that discovery, that someone picked that up?
I think with any public institution, there is a certain requirement for them to have documents in the public domain. And so if the community finds certain documents like this, that it is what it is.
Okay, yeah. And can you tell us a bit about what they want to do with the Ocean Protocol?
I think at this stage, whatever is in the public domain is we just leave as is, and I probably won't comment on anything further.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The crypto industry itself is very in its infancy. Now you have decades of experience in the financial industry by building banks. Now, how do you see the traditional big players in finance, like the banks, but also institutional investors? And how do you view their relationship with crypto? And do you ever see them coming into this world with a bigger footprint?
I think they have to. I think crypto is going to rebuild the financial rails that currently exist. And if you don't want a bunch of 20 to 35-year-old male nerds running the financial system again, then you're going to need a multitude of voices. And I don't just mean the banks, but I mean a certain diversity of representation, whether it's on the gender side or on the geography side. And the good thing is we do have that. We have crypto is one of the very first technologies in the world that's a general purpose technology, so wildly powerful, that is being developed in all corners of the globe, whether it is in Indonesia and Bali, Singapore, Beijing, Shanghai, Tel Aviv, parts of Europe, all over America. It's not like the internet where it's developed in Silicon Valley. And that makes me more hopeful. What that also means is that this technology is going to go in multiple directions. And if you look at, for instance, the banking sector, where it's very rigid, we have, for instance, the Bank Secrecy Act in the US that's 50 years old. You have Sarbanes-Oxley, which in some ways governs this stuff from public companies. The AML, anti-money laundering, terrorist financing stuff that happened after 9/11. It's made banking more rigid and less accessible to honest, normal people. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. So what I see is that crypto is growing at a pace of 100 times faster than the current banking system, which is plugging along. And eventually crypto will get powerful enough that it will pull a displacement trick, like what happened to IBM. Microsoft displaced IBM very quickly because it was moving at 100 times faster than IBM. And I believe that that is the risk for financial services. If they don't understand crypto, if they don't get a grasp of this and push it through their own organizations, crypto will eat the banking system.
The banks are so powerful. Why would they allow this to happen?
They don't. They're not incentivized to. But what you need is one or two banks. Like, for instance, in Germany, you have banks like Solaris Bank or Fidor Bank. You have a couple of challenger banks in America like Silvergate or Signature Bank. DBS in Singapore just came out with their, actually they didn't announce it, but it was found, a website was found that essentially had them having a crypto platform. You're going to have a few banks who see the future and say, guys, let's keep our business running, but we need to move in this direction. So how do we do this? Do we set up a new company? Do we do it in-house? They need to find a way. PayPal just accepts Bitcoin now. They don't give you custody. They do exactly what Revolut was doing before, where you can buy Bitcoin, but it stays on your account and you never actually get to touch it, for whatever reason. They need to experiment, and they need to experiment a lot faster. I built banks before. I understand them. I understand the challenges that they face. But the banks who are able to dip a toe into crypto and then commit certain amounts of resources will still be loads ahead of all the other banks when we are ready to take them on. Of course, they don't want that interface between the traditional banking world and the crypto world. It's painful. I've onboarded about 24 people into the crypto world in the last 3 months, family members, friends and family, influential people in the areas that I work in, and people who are really wanting to understand this space because they see kind of the macro trends of monetary easing, the what's going to happen to the economy through the measures to stop this pandemic, as well as the political instability. And so crypto is becoming, like the meme says, it's a hedge against all of these things. Bad central banks, bad politics, and a way for you to look at this. So I've onboarded a lot of people. It's painful. It's really painful. But we're building those rails. You have different wallets, exchanges, services that are seeing this, and they're opening up these gateways for people to get fiat into crypto and then start experimenting with it. And as that gets smoother over time, the legacy banks who are laggards and followers, they're going to have their traditional business. Banks aren't going away, but it's going to be dwarfed by the value that is created by crypto.
Okay. I also saw in your resume that you are a master practitioner in NLP. Are you still consciously using some of these tactics in your professional life?
I think one of the main misconceptions of NLP is that it's used for manipulation. Yeah. I think that with anything, whether it's technology, psychology, what we've seen with social engineering, you can use things for a negative purpose. At the very start of NLP training, the key premise is if you're doing something with a person, they feel if they're being manipulated. You feel it. And so whatever you do, you have to do it in the interest of the other person. Whatever you say, whatever techniques you have, you do it. And that is something that I have always taken to heart, in that if there's anything that I say, I need to understand what my intents are, as well as what is in the best interest of the audience and the person that's sitting across from me. And so that is an inviolable, like you can't violate that principle.
So the world from the outlook looks very unstable at the moment with everything that's going on. What are your expectations mostly from a tech point of view for the coming 5 years? How do you see the landscape being developed? In what direction?
I think we've already hit a breaking point where the pace of change is not digestible by the vast majority of people. And it's going to be a very technocratic future where there's a certain base level of math, statistics, pragmatism, where it's data-based and stuff, such like that. I think that if people are emotional beings, and the world we are in, moving towards with technology, is not emotional. And that's the interface, this moral, emotional interface where we as humans can turn it into an advantage, but it's also a weakness. Technology is just going to get faster. And I think that the impacts of technology will cause ripples throughout society in broader ways. And I'm hopeful that the crypto community understands this, as well as uses its kind of pace of change and the power that comes with that to design systems that will bring and include everybody. I don't think that it's helpful if you have multi-billionaire crypto whales in the space who are misogynistic people who believe that, you're all on your own, kind of an Ayn Randian view. I believe, I'm of the firm opinion that we're all kind of given a certain privilege and the tools, and we all live on one world. And but the technology is going to move forward, so we all need to work towards decarbonizing the environment, solving that problem, because that's a bigger problem than crypto, by the way. But using crypto to financialize a lot of different things, financialize data, reputation, identity, financialize and incentivize the cleaning of the carbon from the environment, the cleaning of the oceans, getting onto clean energy, these types of things. I believe that crypto systems can lead the way for that. And then all the other stuff, whether it's biotechnology, neuroscience, AI, all of these general purpose type technologies will just happen. And then hopefully we have a certain moral and spiritual development as humanity.